baby, here am I. Oh, well, you left me here so I could sit and cry. Well, golly gee, what have you done to me? Oh, well, I guess it doesn't matter anymore. Love you like I do.
Well, I told you we were going to meet some true legends, and one of the most legendary drag racers in drag racing history has been Mr. Bill Grumpy Jenkins, and it's certainly a pleasure for me to sit here alongside of Bill, and welcome to my show, Cars and Us. And this is a real history day in the making over here at York. I think Darwin Dahl and Bill Stiles did a hell of a job bringing out all these cars and bringing people like yourself out here, the legends.
Well, thank you, Dennis.
I have one. I want to start off with one specific topic. We'll go back to your history, but there's been a lot of misinformation, myths, and legends about the Z11 Chevrolets. I'd like to ask you a few questions, and maybe we can put to rest some of the questions that have been asked, and some of the information I think is misstated. But you had the very first one that came off, the prototype. That's correct.
It wasn't a prototype. It was a Job 1 car, and that's to the best of my knowledge. That's what I was told.
Now, can you tell me for a fact how many were actually produced?
In the order of 55, and some people say as many as 70, so I'm not quite sure.
I was under the impression there were 47. The reason being is that the NHRA rules, as I recall at that time, you needed 50 cars, a minimum of 50 cars to run super stock. And because they didn't produce 50 Z11 cars, they ran them AFX.
Well, that's the first time I ever heard that story. I can't verify how many they actually built, even from memory, and just because it was just hearsay, and I was just told that. But there was a lot of political stuff going on at that point in time, and certain other brand manufacturers may not have, wanted to see that car in super stock. It was potentially a good enough car to be competitive in super stock, because we won AFX and the little eliminator with that car at Indy that year, and there were some other Chrysler and Ford cars, and they also running the AFX thing, and we were it was a pretty good number. I believe we ran 1210 around 122, something like that, if I'm not mistaken, and that was quicker than basically anybody that was there, so we didn't back into it.
So in other words, what we've learned thus far from you is that there really aren't any records to ascertain the number of cars, and there's really very little information or very little documentation of what General Motors put out.
Well, at this point, I'd say that's probably true. Whether that's the case at the time, I'm not sure. I didn't have a great deal of direct connection at that point in time with Chevrolet, and skirmish here and there, and that was about it. And so that that kind of information wasn't available to me, and I wasn't going to go out and argue with the sanction group at that point in the game over something. They just said no,
Right. And that was it.
That
So
was
you
basically it.
you
And it's their deal and it's their playpen, and
right. And so you ran with what the way the rules were set.
yeah. The car was a pretty good running car, considering the thing. It still weighs about 3,600 pounds.
That's true.
And
With all that aluminum, it still was pretty heavy.
Yeah, it was a pretty heavy car, and ran quite well. And we had to run the Chevrolet rear, which was a real pain. I think the thing had, in that 1 year, it probably had at least 4 axle housings that we had to put in it because it had warped the axle housings.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so that there were a lot of weak points to the car, but it. With enough maintenance and knowing what was going to go wrong, you could keep it. You keep it from breaking for you on race day.
Let's go back a year, 62. They started with aluminum components then, and of course the 409, 409.
Right. The 62 cars. There were about 50 of those cars built aluminum on the run out on production at Baltimore, and they had. Supposedly had the 63 cam in the engines, but the letter coating on the engines didn't change, and the 63 cam wasn't the Z11 cam, but it was a little bit more cam than the one that they had 61, 62, and so they re-rated it at 425 horsepower in 63. But the 62 car, there was quite a few packages of aluminum that. Were sent around to different drivers, or owners, or whatever. And that the green car that's at the show here, the green letter car, actually had aluminum front end on it for quite a bit of its life, because we kept that to the end of '63. And then we also got some in the middle of about this time, maybe June of '62. We got the Z11 Type 409-inch engine. That I guess there were about a half dozen of them made, and we ran that thing in BFX in the number 3 car, which I have no idea where it is at this point in the game. And I ran it at Indy and ran the thing in BFX in that 62 car. That's the one that is here for a lot during the 63 year.
I'm going to ask you about the difference with the NASCAR cars. What was the difference with the? I know the engine was obviously different, but the cars themselves.
The cars themselves, to begin with, were nothing particularly special. Most of the stuff by that time, was getting down to the point that everybody was using the same underpinnings. By the end of the 70s, by the end of the 60s, everything was a Ford underneath the bottom, and. But the cars themselves, no, there wasn't any significant difference between those and the production car. They had, they all had to have steel front ends on them at that point in life. And
were they acid dipped?
Oh, I imagine some people might have tried to acid dip them. Everybody did that. So.
But they didn't come through.
No.
And your Z11 car, was that built as a regular production car, or did that come down the assembly line and built as a true Z11 car?
No, it was built in Flint, Michigan. That was job number 1 down assembly line. And I'm quite sure that they probably built them all on a run, not mixed up. From a logistics standpoint, I would expect they did it that way.
Well, you know what? I'm glad you said that, because that's proof of what I had said. I worked for General Motors, and Mr. Kuiper, John Kuiper, was the plant manager out in Flint, Michigan when the Z11 cars were built. And he told me, when he became our plant manager in Tarrytown, that the cars were built consecutively, one after another.
Yeah, but that would make as much logistic sense as you can say. Because there's too many different things. I'm quite sure they did the same thing with the 50 at Baltimore when they built them at the runout. Because the only thing that they didn't get done really right on the aluminum front ends, but on the 62 cars, it didn't change the hood springs, and you pull the latch and the hood flew up and hit you in the face.
Is that right? Little engineering defect.
Yeah.
Let's go back to 61.
Yeah. What do we know about 61s? We had that.
The first 409?
No.
Or one of the first 409s?
Well, it was. Let's see, delivered. Oh, I believe, possibly as late as March of '61. I'm a little fuzzy about that. And yeah, they were all delivered as 360 horse 409s. Single 4-barrel, and the service package stuff came from them in about June or July to bring them up to 409 horse. And that was a cam and heads and valves and gaskets, manifolds, and carburetors, and that was about it. There was we didn't get the exhaust manifolds to '62. That's about the components required to change it, bring it up to 409 horse. And the only mistake in that whole package was the camshaft, and it was terrible. And the smart guys figured that out pretty quick and put their old 360 horse cam back in again. Mm-hmm. And that was the way the production '62s came.
Now, one thing I wanted to not digress a little bit, but you're noted for your engine building and for the records that your cars held and all that, but you were one hell of a driver.
Well, I accomplished quite a bit. Yeah, I was mostly doing it just to expedite matters because I couldn't get anybody to do what I wanted to get done. So I just said, "Now I'll do this myself." And so it lasted from '66, '65 through about 1980, and it was a pretty good run.
I mean, you've done everything. I remember specifically at one track. I remember you going down and looking at the lights, getting out of the car at the staging lane and going down and look at the lights. And as a matter of fact, it was at York, and everybody was kind of, in the background. What is he doing? What is he doing? What was he looking at? Was that a lot of psych that you used to use, or were you looking for something specific?
No, probably looking to see how rough the track looked, and mostly the. You could look across the beams of course and see how the crown of the track was going to affect your staging and rollout.
And so that was an edge for you.
Yeah.
You've had an extensive amount of cars, and I mean, you're like a true legend. Can you pick one car that was your favorite?
Well, 72 Vega was a good car, and I think it won all but one of the NHRA races. It was all gear, and it was a good year. And the '68 car was a car I spent about $8,000 on and ran it through the end of '70, and at $8,000 gross, about $250,000.
Wow, that's a hell of a return.
Yeah.
Now, let's, I guess, bring your viewers up to date. What's your status now? What's the latest in your life?
Well, we built all those truck engines, and got one championship, and didn't have we won at least 3 races every year. They ran the truck series, and that was pretty successful. And it was pretty successful financially, and it put a couple of kids through college, and it's unfortunate that it's gone. I didn't necessarily agree with the thing to begin with, but it was one of those things that it's going to be here. I'm going to have to work on it because it was just going to be too easy. And so we did that. And this is the first year without that. And we're working on developing another pro stock car engine at this point. And I still do a lot of complimentary cars and engines. And so we're still plenty busy. I've dropped down from 7 to 5 guys. And so we get going, yeah.
And I don't know. You've never left York. I mean, you're still here, and it's a real.
No, I'm not in York.
Your shop.
Shop's in Philadelphia.
Your shop was in Philadelphia. Okay, but you were always associated with York.
Well, I was during the old reliable time frame, yes, and I did a lot of business with Ammon Smith, and that in that context, yes. And Jerry Stahl's here, and he's the header guy, and he lives in York, and I've been friends of his for years. And
you're
so
one big happy family out here.
yeah, right.
Yeah, we have to hook up with him later on. Maybe possibly get the 2 of you together, or Dino Don. But it's been a real treat. You're certainly a wealth of information, and it's really a pleasure to meet you and see you here amongst all the legends and all the legendary cars. That's for sure.
Oh, thank you.
Been a pleasure. Thanks so much.
fun back at the Hearst Timmy Underglass with my boss, Jack Duffy. You know, when I started to work for Jack Duffy, it was in 1966, but he had already perfected and made the Hearst Timmy Underglass famous. The builder, the designer, the part of the team, the PR director who got it all out there, and George Hearst had you as his right-hand man. What do you think about the Hearst Timmy Underglass, Jack?
I think the whole Hearst team, not that I did it, because the only reason they noticed me was because of people like Linda and Bob Riegel. I'll tell you, they are crowd pleasers, and the memory of the people 20, 25 years ago, seeing this Emmy under glass, or seeing her go down to Daytona on the pace car, or even at Indianapolis. At Indianapolis, when you drive around in the pace car, everybody gets their name on the pace car. But I'll tell you, there's two people that the whole stand up for. And that was the motorcycle driver.
Evel
Knievel and Linda Vaughn. 150 yards away, they start standing up and yell, "Linda, Linda." Oh, God.
And Evel rode up beside of me, and James Garner drove our pace car. And James sends his regards, Jack. I always see him at the Indy 500 every year. Then we had the pace cars at the NHRA U.S. Nationals.
Yes.
And was official pace cars in 72 and 74.
They sure did. And I'll tell you, we had a lot of specialty cars like the...
who was our other driver? The singer?
Oh, the country...
Marty Robbins.
Marty Robbins.
Yeah.
God bless him. I'll tell you, he can
sing to his
He sang and he can drive, and he did it for many, many years, more than people thought he could do it.
Yeah, he sure did.
I'll tell you.
What are your highlights working for Hearst, Jack?
One of the highlights was working for Hearst was we hired Linda for 1 year, as we normally hire a girl. And at the end of the 1 year, we were saying, well, how are we going to keep her? Well, how many years later, we still got her.
Thanks, Jack. I miss you, Jack Duffy. He'll always be my boss. He told me in the elevator tonight on the way over here, he says, I'm not a boss anymore. I'm just the boss of the grass and around the house. He'll always be my boss, the best PR director that ever lived, that turned Hearst into a household word, Jack Duffy. Thank you, Jack.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you. That's marvelous, I'll tell you. And I thought so much of you, too. But
we still do.
Together, we worked so much as a team over the years.
Want to hook up again? A website, maybe?
If my Social Security will permit it.
I think they will. Stay tuned.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jack. Pleasure having you on.
I didn't even have any cue cards. I got to have a copy
You're
of that.
doing great.
Thank
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Thanks, Lynn,
You're welcome.
so much.
Sorry I don't feel good.
That's okay. You know,
I gotta
it's
go to work
been a
with the
trip.
people now. Thank you.
Been a trip.
Good luck. Woo, I get a kiss for that. I love this job. Bye, y'all.
From one legend to another. One of the major dignitaries in this show and in this room tonight, Arnie the Farmer Beswick, Mr. Pontiac. Arnie, it's a pleasure to have to been introduced to you, and I want to welcome you to my show, Cars and Us, and of course to MUSCLECAR Mania here with Darwin Dahl and Bill Stiles. This is a great show.
It's a heck of a show, man. I never dreamt they'd have the crowd and the caliber of cars they got here, but they got really a great show. They did some super homework to put this together, and it's paying off big time.
Yeah, it's been 2 years in the making, but they were able to contact guys like yourselves and bring them here. And some of them, of course, have their cars, like you have your car here. The others, they got the collectors to bring in the cars. So it took some doing, but this is some event.
It really is, and like I said, they need to be congratulated on the homework and the amount of time they spent contacting the different personalities and to make this all happen. It is really something. Everybody's been by my area here is just, they're in seventh heaven.
That's if you're a drag racer, and even if you were a spectator, you have to be.
That's right. And not everybody that is here were drag racers, but they were fans, or they've read about us over the years, and a lot of them haven't had a chance to meet us, and they just feel honored to, they're speechless, some of them.
Let's go back and talk about some history with the Pontiacs that you ran many years ago, the lightweight Pontiacs, and which one you started with, and just from the beginning right up until the present time, to this car we're standing in front of.
Well, it would take us maybe more time than you got, but I started with Pontiacs in 1958. Originally, my first car was an Oldsmobile that I won the first national event with in 1955, and then in 56 I switched over to Dodge. I had a Dodge for a couple years, and then in '58 I went to the Pontiacs, and I've pretty much been with Pontiac ever since. I did have a Ford Mercury Comet, which was a great car, but unfortunately it was the overhead cam motor. There was very few parts available, and if we had a little bit of a breakdown, you had to wait forever to get the right pieces to get it going. So I elected to go back to the Pontiacs in '66, and been with them ever since.
I think a lot of the viewers especially would like to know a little bit more about the old lightweight Pontiacs.
Well, our first real lightweight come about in probably 1962. The '61 Pontiac Catalina was sometimes termed a lightweight, but it really wasn't. There wasn't nothing really different about that car over a production car. In fact, they were all production cars. The only thing that would have termed it a lightweight and maybe deemed it such a thing as lightweight was the aluminum bumpers. They did come out before the year was over to make the bumpers a little bit lighter. Well, in '62, Pontiac come out with an all aluminum front end, bumpers, inner fender panels, and radiator core support. So that was their second go around with aluminum. '63, they really tried to jump a little bit further. They come out with a lighter gauge aluminum front end, plus they actually bored holes in the frame, and it was always termed a Swiss cheese frame because of the holes in the frame. So those are the 3 major years that Pontiac had a lightweight car.
Now you did you run any one of those?
Oh, I've had Pontiac.
All of them?
I had them all.
You did?
'58 I started with Pontiac. I had a new one in '59. I had a new one in '60, then I had another one in '61. '62 I had a '62 Super Duty with aluminum front end. '63 I had 3 of them. I campaigned 3 cars in '63. One was a little Tempest coupe with aluminum front end. The other one was a wagon,
Yes.
grocery getter wagon, and then I had the Catalina, '63 Catalina. So I was pretty busy in '63 and '64.
Yeah, I have some old film footage of that wagon. That must have been a fun car.
It definitely turned some heads, and it definitely brought home some groceries, I will tell you that.
Definitely. The car we're standing in front of now, this is a GTO.
Yes, it is. It's a replica of a '64 GTO I had. This happens to be, we put a tiger stripe paint scheme on it because that was so popular with a car I had back in the '60s. And so we continued with that. And this has a late model pro stock kind of motor in it with a stick shift Lenco transmission, and it'll give you a pretty good ride.
You are now match racing?
Every weekend, we're one place or another. We was over at Maple Grove, we was at Mason-Dixon this past Sunday, and we just come back from Charleston, West Virginia. We just drove all night to get here, to be here for this event. We was running down there at a what they call a POCI convention. They always have a race involved. It's an all Pontiac race, that particular race was, which we do a few times a year also.
What kind of ETs and miles per hour are we running today?
Well, the car down there was an 1/8 mile track. I think it went a 460. So it's in an 1/8 mile, it's pretty much a 450, 460. If the track slips a little bit, it's a 470. But it's pretty consistent in those ET ranges. In the 1/4 mile, it's anywhere from a 7.0 to a 7.20, again, depending on the air and track conditions.
You seem like you're just as much into it today as you were years back. You seem to enjoy as much today as you did years ago.
Well, I do, but more so than that, I enjoy the people, the type of people that come to these races. If it wasn't for the fans, I wouldn't be here. The racing fans all over the country are a special cut of person. And I'll tell you what, if we had all the people in this country, this world, with the same personalities and the same makeup of what these racing fans are, we wouldn't have wars today. It would be all a great world to live in.
Be a happy family, that's for sure. But you know, it's gentlemen like yourselves that make this all happen and give pleasure to everybody. And it's nice that you feel that way, that you want to give back, to the people that have come out and supported you.
That's what it's all about, like I said. And I have a lot of fans. The car's made me pretty popular over the years. So I spend a lot of time signing autographs and selling a little memorabilia stuff. And that's what I look forward to every week, just meeting new people and old friends that I've met in years past. That's what I look forward to.
Well, we certainly look forward. We heard your car was going to be here. Not sure whether you were going to be here, but it's great that you did show up with the car. And there's a line of people here that want to have you sign autographs. So we're not going to take too much of your time, but really I truly appreciate your few minutes of your time. And it's a pleasure, and we'll look forward to seeing you maybe at one of the tracks, maybe around our way. Well, we're in New York, but Englishtown or somewhere thereabout.
I get to Englishtown, and we'll probably be there yet this year. They've called, and unfortunately, every time Mr. Vinny's wanted me up there, or Mr. Knapp, I've been booked elsewhere. But I will be out at Maple Grove, Pennsylvania, at the track July 28th in a couple of weeks. So for all the fans out there that's watching your show, I invite them to come out and see me. July 28th, Maple Grove, Pennsylvania.
All right. Well, we'll be looking forward to that. And again, it's been a pleasure. I thank you so much, and the best of luck. And keep the sport going.
We'll keep the pedal to the metal. And thank you for the invite, and thank you for stopping.
Thanks so much.
How can they find you? Other than come up here on the page. There you go. Thanks. Thanks a lot. And Bob, if I may just answer your strong question. Before I was the announcer in New York, I also raced the 55 Chevy called Blue River. 68, I ran the NASCAR too. What was your favorite part of racing? The favorite part besides the victory? What was your favorite part of racing besides the victory? We race cars, and then we enjoy it afterwards. Did you get to get your picture taken with a beautiful racing model? And do you have any unusual memories of something that may have happened on the U.S. version to you?
I have many memories of Europe, and it's just unbelievable. The thing about Superstock National is that all the people there are probably willing to stand up.
The thing that's really neat today is it seems like the people coming up here like family. Like they've known you all those years, you're a part of their family.
I still like the 70s, all the drivers and all the fans, and it was like different.
There you go. You like to get his autograph? Something for the injector looks like you have a bunch of signatures on it. There you go. Got your Superstock Nationals, and the latest most valuable signature over there is keeping that injector thing for it again. Has it ever autographed the body? Have a woman ever come up here and said, please sign my shoulder? Not yet. There you go. There's an opportunity. You supply the flare, and thank you. Okay, here we are with Ed. Now, let's see. Do you have any unusual stories about your racing days at York U.S. Garden?